Well, for folks just joining, my name is Scott Lachut. I lead the research and strategy at PSFK, and I'm joined by my colleague Lauren, who is a strategist on my team. We work on a weekly basis to try to create great content and reports for all the folks in the PSFK audience. The work that we're sharing today is based off of a report that we put together specifically for Retail Innovation Week. It was the basis for a bunch of the content and speakers that we brought to the stage today. So, all very exciting, and we want to make this as relevant and as interactive as possible. We can certainly jump in and start presenting from the deck, but absolutely please, for folks who have questions or things that they're interested in hearing about, interrupt. Lauren and I have seemed to have no luck in bringing people to stage, but we'll go ahead and start presenting, and then we'll kind of see where this takes us. So one of the things that we like to do in general, the reports that we put out, is provide a little bit of context. We're not a quantitative agency in the way that we conduct our research, meaning we're not sort of going out usually and doing first-party data collection, but in the midst of everything that we're doing, we're coming across great statistics and quotes. We're talking to folks who, like the folks who are on stage today, and just kind of using that as a little bit of context setting. Again, as we think about where the physical store is heading, one of the things for me is that's huge is the fact that it's now an extension of that sort of digital purchase journey. And a big piece of that is the role that it plays within the context of fulfillment, distribution, warehousing, et cetera. So, if we look at this, some of these stats that now a third of retailers are thinking about using their stores as micro-fulfillment centers. I think that bears out a lot with, everything that we're seeing, the things that we talked about today. There's even a shift to sort of move into some of the existing physical footprint to become what are quote unquote called dark stores. So not necessarily something that people can walk into and transact at, but are just that much closer to the consumer in terms of the role that they play within that distribution channel. And then, we see that consumers are really interested in having the convenience of local pickup on-demand delivery as a part of that experience. And again, I think for so long, what we've seen is that physical has created a bunch of costs associated with running operations, but now there's an opportunity to really sort of treat that as a, in some ways as a competitive advantage. So, if we look at what shopper expectations are, people are interested in local delivery. They're interested in buy online, pick up in store, curbside delivery. So these are all behaviors that are becoming something that is, people are seeking for sure. And then, we see the massive growth and revenue driver of BOPIS and curbside pickup. So seeing digital revenues growing 127% year over year. And then obviously when we talk about physical, technology is a big part of that experience. Mobile is obviously a big component of that, and anything that's interactive is huge as part of that as well. So the challenge with technology, as always, is making sure that it's working and adding value to that physical shopping experience. I think in the midst of the pandemic, what we've seen is that contactless solutions are obviously growing as people get a little bit nervous about how they actually are, touching and feeling and interacting within the store, particularly within payments. So, I think we're going to continue to see that be a solution. And obviously that creates more options and flexibility for the consumer as well. So again, in-app shopping, contactless payments, all of these things that support that physical journey, extremely important. And then, a shift to creating opportunities for stores to serve more than just transactional relationships. So a big shift towards service, expertise, and really sort of rethinking the way that that brands can kind of differentiate themselves in terms of what they're offering. And we'll share some great examples of that. So the bread and butter for PSFK is obviously the trends work that we do. For the purposes of this presentation, we have outlined 8 trends that we think are super relevant to the evolving role that physical is playing within that broader experience. Just as a quick note, in terms of the way we research, we go out into the marketplace, look at all the exciting, interesting things that are happening. We do pattern recognition against those examples, and then essentially bring that to life in the context of that experience. So we will dive into those. We'll dive into these trends one by one. I promise to give Lauren an opportunity to chat and chime in, and we'll share some examples of how that comes to life as well. So the first idea we're calling interactive showroom. And this is really that sort of piece of thinking about that hybrid store that is bring some of that experience that people love about digital shopping, that interactivity, that ability to sort of dive deeper into information that the store offers. Really sort of bringing putting that layer of digital information and interactivity into the context of the physical store. Obviously, a lot of this is being driven by mobile, and seeing the way that various retailers are thinking about utilizing either their own store apps or popular social platforms to kind of to bridge the gap and bring those experiences to life a little bit.
Yeah, so here with interactive showroom, there's just a lot of different elements we're looking at. So one is how environments can be interactive, how you can unlock relevant product information within the physical shopper journey. And then you're also looking at how you can incorporate those self-service tools, not only just to be more engaging, but also helping customers to better control their experience as well, which is something that's come up in this past year. And then you're also just creating opportunities to kind of customize that in-store experience based on locations. So there is a community element there. And an example that we have today that encompasses all of this is the recent partnership between Burberry and Tencent. So within its flagship, Burberry partnered with Tencent, who's the developer behind WeChat, which is the messaging, social media, mobile payment app for anyone who's not familiar with it, to create this interactive showroom. So Burberry customers can activate QR codes located throughout the showroom on clothes, but then also just as they're walking around, displays, physical products, they all include them. And they're able to open them up within a custom mini app within WeChat. And so along with being able to access additional info throughout the store, users can book style appointments. They can customize their playlists within their fitting rooms, and they can also reserve spots at the showroom's cafe. So as customers kind of interact with these various products and services throughout the store, they also receive social rewards and can unlock custom content based on the amount of engagement they have. So here's just an element of rewarded engagement, rewarded brand loyalty through that special content that they can unlock. And then also it's just another way to offer that experience for shoppers that they really can't get just online. So an interesting element there as well.
Yeah, I love this example, and thanks for providing that level of detail, Lauren. Again, I think what's interesting here is, there's a tension between building a brand new platform and getting consumers to download that versus what Burberry's trying to do here, which is leveraging an existing app that, a huge number of Chinese citizens already are using and interacting with on their daily life, and then taking advantage of the capabilities that it offers. And essentially, WeChat is like a super chat app platform. So there's all sorts of things that you can do within it. And, one of the things is creating apps within an app, so to speak. So really interesting. Love the fact that there's that sort of gamified element and that sort of encouragement of interaction throughout that experience. And, this is obviously very tailored to the Chinese audience, but I think there's a lot of crossover behaviors that exist within the context of how we see this happening globally as well. And again, the mobile device, already something that people are using to sort of navigate their daily life. So why not figure out ways to make this specific and relevant within the context of a physical retail experience as well. So in terms of thinking about beyond WeChat, I think there are also other platforms that we're seeing widespread adoption within the context of the US. I think WhatsApp obviously is expanding its capabilities within the context of how it's beginning to fold in more functions around chat and what that ultimately means within the store experience. Lauren, I don't know if you have any other
I was
thoughts.
just thinking, I feel like a lot of brands, and obviously to your point too, like not everyone can do this, but are experimenting within their own apps with QR codes and how they can bring that mobile experience in stores. Like Nike comes to mind, but not everyone can do what Nike does. So it's hard, realize it's not totally adaptable maybe to everybody, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you already have a well-established, sort of mobile shopping app that's providing a lot of utility for customers, then obviously there's the opportunity to sort of plus that up and think about that within the context of, the broader retail experience. For folks not familiar, Nike Plus is Nike's mobile sort of everything app. It started off as a way for consumers to track their behavior, which then can lead to rewards. It obviously gives Nike a lot of amazing information about what their customers are doing. They folded in personalization, creating a shoppable sort of feed that is personalized to every consumer. And then they also activated a store mode so that when you go into a Nike shop and select Foot Locker locations, you can begin to do a lot of things within the context of that store experience as well. Certainly there's physical retail already has the advantage of offering touch and feel, tactile experiences. There's a lot of amazing ways that physical retail already has the advantage over digital in that context. But at the same time, I think there are opportunities, again, when it makes sense, when it adds value, when it sort of provides a added layer of experience on top of how you might experience a product perhaps a little bit more statically within the context of the store, to really sort of create a more engaging shopper experience. So we're seeing things like video, interactive displays, experiential tech like virtual reality, obviously, to help kind of plus up the way that consumers are shopping in store, and adding some interesting layers of experience there as well.
Yeah, so a key idea within augmented merchandising is really offering a type of personalized or elevated service to customers through that tech innovation moment, right? So an interesting way we see that coming to life is the On Running flagship here in New York. In the city. So it's from this Swedish footwear brand On Runnings. It's their first flagship here in New York. And what's cool about it is, and you can tell kind of from this picture as well, I hope, but they have this whole digital wall and it's embedded with motion activated cameras, which can analyze customers' running styles as they demo in the store. So that coupled with a custom like built invisible foot scanner creates this personalized running profile for each shopper. And based on that profile, On Running can then provide, custom personalized footwear recommendations based on foot size, running style, and whatnot. So this is a great example of how incorporating that in-store tech only adds to the experience rather than overpowers it, really.
Yeah, and I think this is just as a note for everyone. This actually opened very recently, within the past month or so within New York. I haven't had an opportunity to visit. I don't know if you have,
cool.
Lauren.
Like, seems worth the trip if we can get it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like, again, they've brought tech in, but they've tried to sort of embed that behind the scenes to create this a little bit more kind of magical experience. Obviously, you can go into a lot of different running stores and hop on a treadmill and get a gait analysis and things like that. They've tried to make this feel, take it to that next level, and then display relevant information that then provides the store associate and the consumer both with the ability to then make smarter decisions about what it is that the customer should be buying. So it'll be interesting as a very early foray into physical retail for this brand. Obviously, they're very sort of design forward in terms of their products, how that kind of plays a role in bringing that experience to life. And I think, again, for us, digital commerce already does a great job of bringing personalization to life. How you bring that to life in store in a way that's meaningful and relevant for consumers, I think is where one of the big opportunities is for physical retail, because then you have that touch and feel, you have that one-to-one interaction, and then you have that level of personalization as well. So it's all pretty exciting. This is something that I think is quite interesting, and perhaps has really been driven by what's happened during the pandemic. I think there's a couple things to sort of cue in on here. Number one, stores have closed or were forced to close for a while. You had all of this sales staff who had a ton of knowledge, but perhaps, especially during these forced closures, didn't have the ability to necessarily share that with their customers in a one-to-one basis. We've seen the rise of live streaming and just these sort of like remote video interactions between associates and customers who are shopping in a digital context. And so now we see this sort of emergence of stores that are built not only for customers to walk in off the street, but also have the capabilities to then broadcast to a digital audience who is tuning in from their homes. So kind of flipping that sort of way of thinking about the store as being the ultimate destination, but instead being the inspiration for someone to buy something online, or perhaps eventually come in for a visit.
Here we wanted to highlight Beauty Counter's newly renovated or newly opened LA store. And it was designed to act as a virtual retail assistance and live stream studio. So it's connecting its online customers with in-store experts. And while the front of the store offers a traditional retail setting where people can come in, purchase anything they would like, and then leave, there's also a stage in the back equipped with professional lighting, audio equipment. And here, Beauty Counter's employees are actually able to stream throughout the day. And it's connected to their website. You can click in, check it out anytime. And customers watching from home can actually browse aisles with the assistance of an in-app or in-store expert. They can click on any featured items to view more information or check out. And they can also ask for greater detail on product application tips or recommendations. So again, it's like an interactive element with that in-store expert. And another great thing here is that it's actually open to the entire beauty counter community. So the brand's independent consultants, brand ambassadors, if they're in LA, they're welcome to come into the store and use the studio to connect with their own Instagram and Facebook audiences. So just another way to kind of support its own community of experts as they look to connect with those consumers.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that last bit that you spoke about there, Lauren, and just the sort of, we know that brand ambassadors and, still in a powerful context, influencers, but, perhaps they're a little bit more sort of pay to play, but the opportunity to amplify what it is that the brand's trying to do, which I think is really interesting. And again, in a less kind of polished way, we were seeing a bunch of brands, particularly within the beauty space, experimenting when stores were closed with turning their in-store sales associates into online customer service agents, using the store as the backdrop. This is just kind of, baking that into the way that the store is designed. And again, some additional capabilities, but you don't need to have a full studio in order to necessarily sort of activate this as well. One of the things that let me pause to see. Oh, yes. Thank you, Ram. It is. I think the, and this trend also sort of ties into that idea of, how brands can, add value to their consumers regardless of where they're shopping. Expertise and education have always been a big part of what we kind of push here at PSFK in terms of adding value to that retail experience. I think what we've seen, again, and sort of even tying back to the previous trend, is how you differentiate yourself in a physical context. One of those ways is having those brand experts be the front line and being able to actually deliver, again, personalized experience, super relevant recommendations, particularly where complicated product decisions are necessary, how you help consumers in that with those decisions. And then on the back end as well, what role these experts can play in sort of, post-purchase. So getting the most out of a product purchase, achieving goals through the lens of that product, et cetera. So we'll look at a great example of how this comes to life.
So here we're talking about this whole idea of integrated expertise. So taking a new approach to the role of associates, U.S. Pharmacy Rite Aid is updating its stores to better showcase the pharmacists that they have in their services. So to help customers with overall well-being, Rite Aid pharmacists are certified now as integrative pharmacist specialists. So this basically allows them to educate consumers on alternative remedies, in addition to any prescriptions that they're picking up from their doctors that have been prescribed. So it's really meant to complement their Rite Aid's current health plans. So here we like the idea of giving customers a new reason to come into the store, as well as leveraging those expert associates, in this case, pharmacists. And then also there's that whole one-to-one expert education recommendation that they offer, but that's being built into a new touch point into the consumer journey.
Yeah, I think this is really fascinating. I mean, the pharmacy space is quite interesting right now, just given what's happening more broadly with the vaccine rollout. There's a big role for pharmacies to play within how that is actually distributed. You have, just on a more cultural level, a recognition of health from a much more sort of progressive kind of holistic point of view. So that sort of shift in mindset from just sort of dispensing medical advice around over-the-counter or prescription medications to thinking about more holistic options, I think is really interesting. And wellness is obviously an exploding category there. And then I think this is a huge opportunity for that sort of loyalty and customer data play as well. Health data is one of those things that, it can be obviously quite touchy, super personal, but when you have that relationship of a pharmacist that has this sort of, integrated knowledge of who you are as an individual, what they've suggested in the past, perhaps rolling in additional services, this can really sort of position Rite Aid or any other brand as sort of that go-to and central kind of player in, the types of service they're able to deliver. And then obviously once that relationship is there and established, then you have customers that are coming in and likely to purchase as a result of that. So I think this is all super interesting and exciting, and goes well with what Rite Aid is trying to sort of establish as a brand moving forward. I think this notion of test and learn has come up a lot over the past few days. The willingness as a company to constantly be experimenting, tracking what's working, what isn't working, and then using that to scale and decide what actually is going to be relevant and resonate with customers. And again, we now have within the context of physical retail, with the Internet of Things technology and other ways of sort of tracking the way services resonate, that physical can play a big component in sort of helping understand what's working from a brand or a retail perspective, and then providing amazing insights. So more and more what we're seeing is that stores are thinking about target markets and how to roll out services to a smaller audience, and then think about how that might grow over time.
Yeah, and so here we really like this idea of iterative innovation and how retailers can improve their processes, low cost, time effective, rather than launching new concepts or even just really costly tech implementations without that customer buy-in, and just confidence that they know it's going to impact consumers positively. And so a great example of this coming to life is 7-Eleven and its Evolution stores. So they have 5 right now across the US, and they're testing digital technology products before incorporating them across the board into their other stores. And so to continuously innovate around these experiences, these stores act as trial spaces, and everything from contactless mobile checkout tech, as well as the just launched, not recently, probably the last year, did the 7 Now delivery app, which allows customers to select local stores and items for delivery or pickup. And so all of these kind of new ideas that 7-Eleven has incorporated into its overall retail strategy started within these stores. So just an interesting concept, but also with their plans to move ahead, that this is something that's working for them.
Yeah, and I was just reading yesterday actually about how 7-Eleven is putting a big priority on the U.S. market in particular. For those that aren't aware, in other markets, particularly in Japan, the whole sort of role that 7-Eleven plays and the way that the brand is viewed is much more different. And I think they're trying to sort of reestablish themselves as more of a sort of everyday stop for consumers, not only from a convenience point of view, but just sort of, garnering more of, sort of everyday needs, let's say. So beyond the services that Lauren mentioned, they're really rethinking what it is that they offer from a product mix point of view, being a little bit more progressive about, not just chips and snacks and whatever else, but bringing in food items and products that are more in line with kind of what consumers are looking for today, and then delivering those through a different set of services. So, really interesting to see where 2021 and beyond will take the retailer. Alongside a lot of what we're discussing today, and this was talked about during the main stage session, as well as as we think about how stores accommodate the new ways that people want to shop, their desire to have safety as a huge component of that. Thinking about stores not being so fixed from an infrastructure point of view. It's not that you always have to check out in this particular location or returns always happen here. Once employees have technology that they have at their fingertips, they have the flexibility to sort of take all of those various kind of transactional elements and move them around in ways that make sense depending on the customer and what they're trying to achieve. So really interesting to see some of the ways that this is playing out, not just during COVID, but I think going forward, this will be really important, again, as a way to sort of maximize what can happen within a physical footprint.
Definitely. And so here we wanted to call out the home furnishing retailer, Crate & Barrel. And so right now they're really working to alleviate pain points between the moment a customer selects pickup in store on their website and arrives at their local Crate & Barrel location. So they partnered with mobile communication platform Glimpse, and now Crate & Barrel customers will receive notifications when their order is ready for pickup. They can share estimated time of arrival with associates in the store, and then they can also alert associates of their arrival. So along with providing greater visibility to the curbside delivery process for both consumer and associate, Crate & Barrel is able to provide this greater efficiency and also ensure that this type of flex model of pickup and delivery fulfillment is actually a positive experience for customers each time. And we know just from this past year, like curbside and pickup has been tricky for people to get down, especially like if orders aren't there on time and customers are waiting, it can quickly go a little haywire there. So main takeaways here is just the ability to have that transparent view for a customer, as well as that associate to make a better experience.
Yeah, I love what you just said there, Lauren. This is, as things like curbside and buy online, pick up in store to a lesser degree have become necessities in the context of kind of the way that physical retail is delivering on its promise. The last thing you want is for a customer to show up sitting in their car and just be wondering, like, do they know that I'm here? Why am I waiting? All of these sort of uncertainties to create that sort of, what could have been a great experience and quickly flips that to something that's not interesting. And then, I think alongside of that, we have, all this great technology, the likes of Uber, and, we can track everything now in sort of near real time. So I think it makes sense to bring that to bear within the context of, how this is delivered in a, sort of curbside experience as well. From our audience here, shouting out Nordstrom as doing a seamless pickup experience. And again, I think, this is one of the things that we're seeing just in general is that from a consumer point of view, they expect options in every way that they shop, whether that's online, whether that's online to offline or offline only. They want to have the ability to sort of choose what's going to make the most sense for them. And so having that creates way more complexity for retailers and brands to get that right. And so having the technology in place to enable that and make sure all those experiences are great, hugely important. We talked about this at the beginning. I think this is, here to stay in many ways. A lot of existing retail footprints are these huge, massive spaces that have been dedicated to aisles and aisles of product. We've already seen a sort of desire to shrink some of what it exists and sort of, how much square footage you actually need for a store. But in either case, dedicating some of that space to serving as a warehouse and a sort of cog within the sort of distribution chain to get closer to consumers and deliver to them in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, so within this, looking at this mixed use stores, Best Buy has really doubled down on new store formats this year, just as it looked to speed delivery, but also improve efficiency for its online orders. And so it's testing a ship from store hub model that also supports better curbside and in-store pickup. And so to do this, they've so far dedicated approx 250 of its 1,000 stores in the US to handle higher volume of packages. And then locations for these were chosen based on their proximity to shipping carriers, what space they had, square footage, and then the ability to support same day or next day delivery. So what communities they were located in based on volume of orders coming in. So in addition to its ship from store offering, Best Buy's continued to add these locations for consumers to pick up online orders. And so right now it's offering like 16,000 locations where you can pick up your Best Buy order, which is kind of crazy to think about. But they're also testing out new store formats where as just fulfillment hubs. So what they've done is in these remodeled stores is limit SKU assortment on the floor, and it's just most popular items, and they've reduced shoppable area by like the shoppable location area by about half, and then they're just allowing more space for pickup and ship from store. So a good way to sum this up is just like how the physical retail location is really becoming an extension of that digital shopper journey.
Yeah, I love this. And I think, again, it's sort of, as we think about cost savings and sort of the benefits of some of these things, it's like, if you're dedicating, X square footage to a product that, maybe sells once every month or whatever the case is, why not think about ways to be more efficient about that? The consumer can easily buy that product online and get that, delivered to them in a way that makes sense. And instead think about how you turn, what is this legacy of real estate into an advantage that, again, gets you closer to the consumer, really rethinks the whole role that stores can play. And again, there's so many things that I think this enables in terms of how you use the real estate within the context of the store. So it's really interesting to see this sort of play out and be now a competitive advantage for retailers as they think about how their real estate becomes a differentiator in many ways. And then alongside this is just this idea of tapping into local fulfillment. So going beyond the last mile into whatever that would be, the final 10 feet or whatever anyone is calling that. Certainly, we've seen what has traditionally been these niche players in the space who have, perhaps been dedicated more to moving people or moving, sort of food and takeout, now sort of stepping up and beginning to play a larger role within how they deliver on behalf of retailers as well. And so, a lot of this is thinking about, again, with the store being a part of that fulfillment network, how then do you sort of like eliminate the FedExes and UPSs of the world and sort of go for something that is more immediate, 1 hour, 2 hour, rather than, next day.
Yeah, so a great example of how retailers are building out this kind of nano fulfillment strategy in order to serve consumers right when they need it. We like this partnership between home goods, bedding, textiles brand Parachute and delivery service Postmates, who I think we're probably all more familiar with after this year. And it's one of many new partnerships actually for Postmates with retailers who are looking to offer that same day or even same hour delivery to nearby customers. So how it works is customers shop for can shop Parachute products in Postmates in-app store, and it's called Shop. Right now it's being piloted in LA. I don't know if it's expanded just yet, but customers who are in LA are able to go into Postmates, click on Parachute, browse, check out, and then they're able to have their orders delivered that day. And for another charge, I believe it's something between $5 to $10. You can get it within that hour. So it's worth mentioning too, like other services, Uber Eats, Instacart, which are both delivering food or groceries, are also moving into this space. So just like this broader range of retail delivery services that are same day, trackable, local, and offering kind of that similar convenience that Amazon does with quick delivery, allowing customers to shop those local stores in their communities. So it's kind of a nice element there.
Yeah, this one's really fascinating to me, and I know we're gonna, we touch on this. So Lauren in particular, and me to a lesser extent, has been hard at work putting out our marketplaces playbook, which is sort of the basis for day 4. But it's interesting because then when you think about the role that a platform like Postmates, when it becomes a quote unquote mini marketplace, as a new place for consumers to sort of think about shopping, and what strategy you have. Is this just for your sort of top 10 performing SKUs that that you have a lot of? There's just a lot of interesting considerations for how this most makes sense within the context of that broader customer experience. But I think we touched on this a little bit yesterday, but when you combine this with this sort of idea of near me shopping, we heard Dennis Crowley today from Foursquare. We see the way that Google Maps is now starting to sort of behave almost as a commerce platform within, the ways people are interacting with it. Becomes super interesting to sort of add in that sort of delivery aspect into this, and really kind of like changes the game in terms of what retail and delivery looks like. Yes. Okay. Awesome. So just to kind of leave off in terms of a couple things that we wanted to sort of that resonated with us as we were putting this report together. And hopefully some of the things that we've already kind of touched on, just kind of iterating those. And I keep seeing myself like covered in sun. So I moved specifically to get away from that. But as Lauren mentioned, we have, physical retail is now an extension of the digital shopping journey. For me, one of the fascinating things to see was just how much more digital played a role in how people were choosing how and when to visit stores. Things like, is this product that I really want and need available, become hugely important considerations before visiting. Then you have traffic density, you have, what are your safety protocols, all the way through to, can I buy something in a digital context and then easily, get that picked up or shipped to me in a way that makes sense. So all those different fulfillment models are really important to that. The role that technology plays in terms of creating contactless journeys, obviously mobile is a big part of that. And then once you have mobile activated within a physical space, can you leverage the information that's being offered there as well? Mobile as well plays a role in that employee experience. Everything from, the basics of getting their day-to-day jobs done, moving that experience around in a way that makes sense for the way people are shopping today, and then also how they're delivering service. Smaller footprints, less focused on transactions and more about relationship building or value-added services. And then also thinking about stores as a sort of test and learn space, which I think is hugely important as well. So let's see, I'm just catching up on, Jeff is sharing us is sharing the presentation where you can download it. Thank you to everyone who joined us here today. Thanks to Lauren. Thanks to all the amazing questions and comments from Ram and everyone else in the audience. If anyone has any questions right now, feel free to ask, or as PSFK, we are always available to you. So you can reach out to Jeff, is usually the face of PSFK, and always ask us questions as well. So
thanks
everyone.